It was a quiet Thursday evening, and the streets of downtown Brooklyn were mostly deserted. The cool autumn air had settled in, and the dim glow of streetlights cast long shadows on the empty sidewalks. Mike Tyson, dressed in a simple black hoodie with the hood pulled up, was out for one of his late-night walks. These solitary strolls were his way of finding peace in a world that still recognized him as one of the greatest boxers of all time. As he passed a narrow alleyway, faint voices reached his ears, taunting, laughing, and a cry that didn't belong. Mike stopped in his tracks, his instincts kicking in. He turned toward the sound and saw a young woman cornered by 3 men. They were blocking her way, their mocking laughter bouncing off the walls. The girl, clutching her bag tightly, looked terrified but refused to cry out for help. Mike adjusted his hood and stepped into the dimly lit alley. The men barely noticed him at first, too focused on their prey. But when his shadow loomed closer, one of them turned and sneered. "Hey, buddy, this ain't your business," the leader spat. Mike didn't flinch. His voice was calm but firm. "Let her go. Now." The men exchanged glances, unsure of how to react. Another laughed mockingly. "And if we don't? What are you gonna do, old man?" Mike lowered his hood, and the dim light revealed his face. Recognition dawned slowly on them, and their bravado faltered. But the leader, either too bold or too foolish, took a step forward. "Mike Tyson, huh? Big deal. We're not scared of you." The others hesitated, but before anyone could say another word, Mike moved. His punches were swift, precise, and powerful. Within seconds, the men were on the ground, groaning and retreating into the shadows. The young woman, still clutching her bag, stared at him in shock. Mike extended a hand toward her. "You're safe now," he said softly. The girl hesitated before taking his hand. Her grip was trembling but firm. "Thank you," she murmured. I don't know what they would have done if you hadn't shown up." Mike gave her a reassuring smile. "You don't have to think about that anymore." "What's your name?" "Savannah," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Well, Savannah," Mike said, "it's late. Do you have somewhere safe to go?" She nodded, but then hesitated. I was heading home, but I don't really feel safe walking alone right now." Mike nodded in understanding. "There's a café just around the corner. Let's go there. You can gather your thoughts, and I'll make sure you're okay before you leave." At the café, the two sat in a corner booth. Savannah wrapped her hands around a warm cup of tea, her trembling starting to subside. Mike sipped his coffee, his calm presence encouraging her to open up. "You're Mike Tyson," she said, breaking the silence. "Why would someone like you stop to help someone like me?" Mike chuckled softly. "Because I've been where you are," he replied. "I know what it's like to feel powerless, and I know how much it means when someone steps in to help." Savannah's eyes softened. "I don't know if I'd call myself powerless," she said, her tone defensive. "I've been fighting to stay afloat for as long as I can remember." Mike nodded. "Fighting is good. It means you haven't given up." Encouraged by his words, Savannah began to share her story. She was a conservatory student studying theater. Performing had been her dream since she was a child, but financial struggles had turned her dream into a constant battle. "My dad left when I was 8, and my mom's been working 2 jobs ever since," she said. "I got into the conservatory on a scholarship, but even that doesn't cover everything. Rent, supplies, food. It's all too much. I'm barely holding on." Mike listened intently, his own past flashing through his mind. "You're stronger than you think," he said, "but no one gets through life alone. Even the strongest need help sometimes." Savannah looked at him curiously. "What about you? You're Mike Tyson. You've been at the top." What could you possibly know about struggling?" Mike leaned back in his seat, a faint smile on his face. "More than you'd think," he said. He began to recount his story. Growing up in a rough Brooklyn neighborhood, Mike had faced poverty, violence, and loss at a young age. He had been an angry kid, constantly fighting to survive. It wasn't until he met his mentor, Cus D'Amato, that he began to channel his anger into boxing. "Cus believed in me when no one else did," Mike said. "He gave me a chance, and that changed everything. Without him, I don't know where I'd be." Savannah listened, her eyes wide. "So you know what it's like to feel like the world is against you?" Mike nodded. "I do, but I also know that when someone believes in you, it can make all the difference." As the conversation continued, Savannah felt a sense of relief she hadn't experienced in a long time. Mike's words weren't just comforting, they were empowering. "I want to help you," Mike said finally. Savannah blinked in surprise. "What? How?" Mike leaned forward. "I've got some connections in the arts world. People who can help you find opportunities, whether it's scholarships, grants, or work that lets you focus on your studies. And I'd like to cover some of your tuition, so you don't have to worry about dropping out." Tears welled up in Savannah's eyes. I don't even know what to say. Why would you do this for me?" Mike smiled. "Because I see a fighter in you, and because I believe in paying it forward. Someone helped me once, and now it's my turn to help someone else." Over the next few weeks, Mike kept his promise. He reached out to his network, connecting Savannah with mentors and organizations that supported young artists. He also arranged for her tuition to be covered anonymously, ensuring that she could continue her studies without the looming threat of financial ruin. Savannah threw herself into her work with renewed determination. Her performances began to shine, earning praise from her professors and peers. She started to believe in her future again, no longer weighed down by the constant fear of failure. Months later, Savannah performed in her conservatory's end-of-year showcase. The theater was packed, and among the audience was Mike Tyson, sitting quietly in the back row. He watched as Savannah took the stage, her voice and presence commanding the room. When the performance ended, the audience erupted into applause. Savannah's eyes scanned the crowd until they landed on Mike. She smiled, her gratitude shining through. After the show, she found him waiting outside the theater. "You didn't have to come," she said. Mike shrugged. "Of course I did. I wanted to see what you've been fighting for. And let me tell you, it was worth every second. Every act of kindness can change a life, be the difference."